So, has Jimmy Fallon apologized yet, or are you guys currently in an online feud?
There's so many hours left in the day, my friend. It just happened, so I remain hopeful that Jimmy and I can get together in a room with a mediator and make sure we hash this out and repair our very brief so far relationship.
Perfect. I hope so too. Now, you're the only player in Survivor history who was forced to vote for himself. That in itself was a wild premise, but then to have to publicly reveal this to the tribe, was that a death sentence for you?
It was very bad. It was very. I mean, the having the reveal element was really truly extremely bad for me. I mean, because ordinarily if you come back from a journey, you can there's still some wiggle room to lie about what happened. And perhaps in this case, like if I came back and let's say everything was exactly the same, except I didn't have to reveal to them that I had to vote for myself, right? They might say, oh, this was a puzzle and Christian is he looks like he's a robot guy. You tell me he didn't do the puzzle, it might have created doubt as to what would have happened. Now, would that have been good or bad? It's unclear, but it gives me options for how to play it, right? As opposed to the Jimmy Fallon thing, the way it played out, I had very few options. So I ended up really reliant upon Emily. She was thankfully, already marshaling a vote to save me. And I gotta say, it's a beautiful thing. I put so much trust in Emily over the course of this season, and she came out swinging for me when I needed it. I really, truly appreciate that. And I knew that I'd be right to put my faith in her intentions.
Now, what was worse for your game, the whole Jimmy Fallon of it all, or perhaps pitching an Ozzy vote to Cirie?
The original sin was pitching an Ozzy vote for Cirie. Now, I think that those are the two key elements. Certainly, pitching the Ozzy vote to Cirie was the most obvious. Like by a country mile, I think the biggest error I made in the game. I was aware that there was a relationship there. I think I just lost sight of it over the weeks. I should have grounded myself back, like, okay, who is together? Because I was starting to detect, as I talked about, that Ozzy's playing the middle here. But clearly, he wasn't the only person playing the middle. And I think I should have traced that back further. Who is he talking to? Who would those people be? And I think Ozzy, I don't think Ozzy was even the right target. That was so like, why is I think that I just noticed that he was playing the middle. He actually, I was one of the people who tipped off the Jonathans about that vote going into the vote. And it started to create a lot of the chaos at the pairs vote. So I was like, oh, okay, why is he doing that? What is the motivation behind that if he just wanted to get rid of Coach and Chrissy, unless he's trying to play both sides? But I should have traced it back to what his group was, right? So that was the cardinal sin. And yes, that could have gotten to send me home anyway. The combination with the fact that I vote for myself made sure I was the target and not Emily, is the way I read it. And so I think that those two things together, but also if I never done the Cirie thing, but I came back with this having to vote for yourself thing, that also would have been dangerous. People might just say, it's like, well, at some point we got to get rid of Christian. He's literally marked himself. It's an easy narrative to sell. Like, well, why not go for him now? Right. So I think either of those things was potentially deadly, but together they were fatal.
Now, if you hadn't gone on this journey at all, how big was your target at that stage of the game? And do you think you would have had eyes on you?
So that's a good question. I mean, it all comes down, in my opinion, to what did Cirie want to do? Because certainly Jonathan was gunning for me based upon what happened at the Pairs Tribal Council. Well, basically, the Pairs Tribal Council, as far as I could tell, was existential. Like if the Coach and Chrissy pair didn't go home, that was a very large alliance of people who seemed to have close to unbreakable bonds, it came across, who would have had a straight majority of the entire tribe. And that's an incredibly precarious position. So I was like, they had to go. And knowing Jonathan was obviously close to these people, I needed him to not be in on this plan that was going down to hopefully get rid of Coach and Christie instead of Rick. And as a result, he felt very betrayed. Now, in my defense, I'm trying to protect my closest ally. So but understandably, he would have come. So, but I think him in and of itself wasn't enough to sway the vote to me. I think that if Cirie takes her crew in a different direction, it's not happening, right? I think in my view, there were ways to survive this vote for me, for sure, if I had done things differently. Absolutely. The only thing would be is Cirie was already planning to cut me, and all this other stuff was, just a face-saving reason to do it. Then I would have been in trouble as well. So that's the thing I don't know.
Now, Christian, I've been watching week after week, and Cirie is just this magical woman. Everyone is drawn to Cirie. You guys have also seen seasons of her pulling these same types of social plays.
Yeah.
Why isn't anyone talking about getting rid of her?
I think, I can only speak for myself and maybe speculate on some other people. I mean, like, I offered Cirie a Final 3 deal on the first day. right?
Okay. Yep.
Because I mean, someone like so when I'm coming into this season, speak to me. Like I went through the experience of people saying you can't let Christian get to the end. You can't let that happen. If you do, you will lose. And again, whether it's true or not, I don't. That's not the point. That's the narrative that people saw, and that can certainly happen again. Yes, it's Survivor 50, but the beauty of Survivor 50 is that there is one person that people will be saying, man, if you let Cirie, a 5-time player who many people feel should have won all these time, you let her get to the end, that's deadly, right? Everyone wants someone else to take that metaphorical bullet. And I told Cirie, like on day one, it's like, look, we have a similar problem to vastly different degrees. It's hard for us to get to the end. You much more than me, to be clear. I'm not you. But what if we had each other? Like, there will be times, where people will want to target you. And I'm happy to protect you. There will be times where people want to target me, especially around the merge. I hope you'll protect me. But at the end, we'll protect each other. And whether I would have taken to the end, I don't think I would have. But like there were echoes of what Cirie said in me in that episode. She said, Christian protected me, and then I protected him, but Ozzy's my number one, he's my number 3. That's fine. Right. So that's why I didn't target Cirie. I think there's a lot of people who have a similar view of Cirie that, unless she starts winning immunities down the stretch, she will be a person who will get targeted as a shield and therefore be a shield. That's why I think it's happening.
Now, Devons last week did this whole fake idol ploy. I'm wondering what you thought of his move there. And was it perhaps maybe a little too early in your opinion?
Well, I mean, at the time, I didn't think he needed to do it, but also I didn't have a complete, already there was a lot of craziness going on at the tribal council before Rick ever pulled out that crazy fake idol, which was, by the way, let's just stop down. Just one of the coolest uses of a fake idol I've probably in the history of the show. I just want to make sure that's clear. And Rick's idea is brilliant and beautiful, and I was happy that I had even a supporting role in it. So, but when it comes to the use of it, I thought that we had the votes, right? And so him pulling it out created an awkward situation, right? But at the same time, from his perspective, he could go home. And people were already getting up. Jonathan was already getting up and talking to people around tribal council because people were tipping him off about the plan. So it was crazy. And so I'm not so sure, and I'm still not sure to this day, if the vote would have gone the way I expected to had he not played it. If you asked me, Christian, play it, I would have said no. Let's sit on it. But easy for me to say I'm not being actively targeted.
And now, had that fake idol been sitting there during this week's tribal, would you have made the play for it, gone for it?
In the situation I was in, I was properly blindsided. I thought Emily's plan was going through, but there were signs that I didn't pay much attention to, that I really should have picked up on, that things were going sideways that I just kind of ignored. I thought it was just weird just because I had to vote for myself, so who cares about what I have to do or think or say? If I did, of course I would be go for that fake idol, right? But the question is, what happens then? Is it just Rick who goes instead, right? So there needs to be a greater plan. There needed to be a greater plan in place where it's going to, this is weird, Rick. We might have to pull something crazy. And I think that the way that you might go is you say, yes, Jimmy Fallon, make me vote for myself, but there's another twist. It came with an idol. I pull out a fake idol. It was a 2-side. I faked something about the twist, and then Rick goes and grabs the thing. We have a double idol. We have a full-on Three Amigos situation. Maybe something like that, right? That's what you have to do.
So you got to ask about the Mike White of it all. You took him out of the game pretty early after he brought Gabby up in conversation. Was it always kind of part of your plan to part ways with your fellow David versus Goliath members? Or why did that all go down so early?
Well, it went down so early because of the threat of the merge, right? I mean, it's already and the threat that we posed as a trio together. I did not plan to go in and target Mike White. I wanted to work with Mike. Angelina, I was more skeptical of because the issue was we were all swapped into this tribe together, the 3 of us. If I marched into the merge, having seemingly protected the other 2, everyone would just assume we're a type trio. Right. And who's going to take the bullet from that? Probably me. People like Mike. Show and celebrity aside, he's a magnetic personality. People like working with him. Angelina, once she's at the merge, I've seen her just kind of take off to the end. Right. I'm the one who takes the bullet. So I was thinking, well, maybe Angelina would go, right? But once Mike started pitching Emily, and I was like, why? Why did you have to go now? I mean, I understand to be wary of her later, but why now? Why couldn't it be like Stephanie we're targeting, right? Right. It didn't make sense, but I was trusting his judgment because he got a great read on people. And to the point where I actually went to Stephanie and said, Stephanie, let's vote Emily. I was convinced. I was convinced by Mike. And I said, Emily, Stephanie, let's vote out Emily. But when I talked to Mike again, I was like, okay, but Mike, what are we gonna do about this target at the merge? I'm gonna have a big target on me at the merge. What are we gonna do? What's the plan if we march in 3 of us together? And my memory was that he said, we'll find a way. And I was like, oh, this is my life. I'm sitting on a time bomb that goes off at the merge. This is it. And I realized at that point, no, he is just trying to save Angelina however he can. He's trying to get me to ignore a real threat to me down the line. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to start considering Mike, because Mike is the glue connecting Angelina and Ozzy. So at a future vote at 5, the two are on the outs. They didn't get along, and they ultimately did not coalesce together to form it to actually something to get me out, right? And ultimately that worked. And saving Emily in the process, she's the person who came out swinging for me at this last vote. She tried to target Ozzy, and she could have easily tossed me under the bus. Like, oh, Christian, he went on a journey. He's voting himself. He's toast. He's done. I'm throwing under the bus. And she didn't. So I feel vindicated in who I decided to trust there.
Now, Christian, I have to let you go, but I'm curious if you've spoken to Mike yet and how things are going. He seemed a little hurt in his exit press.
I certainly understand why he was hurt. I mean, I reached out to him as soon as I got back from the island back in early July, and with a long message explaining why. And I haven't heard back yet, but I hope at some point he'll listen to my message, and if he hasn't already. And I hope that, look, I'm hopeful that we'll find a way to talk in the future whenever he's ready to do it. My doors are always open to him.